Welcome to At the Table with Baz, the show where local stories are served. I'm Baz Hunter, and each episode I sit down with the characters, the grafters, and the hidden gems behind the places we all know and love. So pull up a chair, relax, and join me as we dive into real conversations and the stories that shape our communities. This is At the Table. Hello and welcome to episode number 1 of At the Table with Baz, where local stories are served. And there is nobody more local than the man opposite me today, Mr. Craig Williamson of Williamson's Farm. Craig, it's great to have you here.
Baz, it's an absolute honour to be invited into the inaugural interview on At the Table with Baz. I think it's a fantastic idea, and I think it's going to unearth some really good local stories.
Well, that's the plan. What do you think of the studio? What we've done with the place?
Smart.
Do you like it?
It's nice and warm. I've got a bit of a sweat on, but
I was saying you're looking
all right with my jumper. But
you're looking very smart yourself. We said in our pre-talk, didn't we? Before I forgot to press record, how smart you looked. And
actually, yes, no, I haven't got a frayed collar. That's Sally would have told me off. But no, I have a bit of a shame. I'm never going to keep up with your beautifully coiffured beard.
We try our best, don't we?
It's like regal, I think, your beard is.
Finding all the grey hairs now coming through, so I'm like
covering them well.
having to trim it really well. But no, it's great to have you. It's great to have you as episode number 1. Of course, we share some common interest with the backing of British farming and all that a little bit later on. But Craig, Williamson's Farm shop. Where did it all start for you, the farming journey? Where did it all begin?
Well, we can go way back. I think there's the Williamson family have been farming at Thonnock Lane Farm or at Thonnock since 1885. So we're tenant farmers, which means we pay a rent every half year. And my landlord, it's been the same family landlord, the Bacon family, since 1885.
Wow.
And my great-great-grandfather, it was a much smaller farm then. They had a bit of a dairy. And he apparently, from what I understand, he had a milk round in Morton. And then he was offered some land and he was able to take on, I think he was over at Acacia Farm, which is just across the road from Thonnock Lane Farm. In 1885. And then, obviously, my great-grandfather, and then my grandfather, who I remember, Arthur Sidney, he ran the farm and he had 6 sons. My father was one of the younger ones, and then my father took over from him in 1967 and ran the farm with my mum, Val, and I brought up myself and my 3 sisters. At Thonnock Lane Farm. That was our family home. But once again, I say it's all rented. It was never, we're not owner occupiers. We still to pay the rent. I'll keep bringing that up.
Yeah.
But no, and then after bringing it a bit further forward, I obviously worked for my father when I left school. I went to Rhizome College at Lincoln, Agricultural College.
Right.
Then the mid-late 80s, had the most fun. Previous to that, I went to the grammar school in Gainsborough, and it was all boys. I didn't know what girls. Suddenly, we were introduced to girls in the fourth year. In the 4th year, no wonder I came out with no O levels.
You was otherwise occupied, weren't you? So that's some history, though. 1885, all in the same family.
Yeah.
And the farm, it's sort of like, people would now go into the farm shop and they'd think that's the farm. I mean, I know that it's both sides of the road all the way up as far as you can go. I mean, there's some work involved there, Craig.
There is. The farm, I think we've got about 65 fields. The area it covers is about 1,000 acres, just over 1,000 acres. And we border the golf course, and then we come round and border all right through Morton, then down to Lawton Lane. And if you drive down Lawton Lane or you drive down towards Blyton, the land is in one block to the bottom of Blyton Hill. And there's other bits and bobs in there, other people who own land within it. But the land it's nice in a way. We've got the railway that comes through right to the middle of the farm, but it's a lovely spot.
I were driving up there not so long, and I never knew about the railway line being there. And then there was this train. I think I mentioned it to you, didn't I? There was this train going through, and I'm like, "What's that train doing driving through Craig's Field?" And I didn't realise that actually there's a line there.
So little train.
So I suppose
the Queen.
Yeah. So I suppose and your field's on the other side of that. So
we have to cross our way every time we go.
To ring them up.
Yeah, every single time. We've got to know the guys at the crossing at Central Station. They're very good, and absolutely. I mean, some horrific things, but it's a very low used line. There's a train that goes to Cleethorpes, which I think once a day, and they keep it open for the Drax. It's the Drax relief line, so every now and again they bring a lot of stuff through from Drax.
That's Drax Power Station. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, but once again, there's a lot of history to do with that. Back in the First World War, when there was an ammunition factory on the farm. And so there was a huge amount of sidings which came off the railway, and they swung right round on the land. And there was factories and all sorts that were on the farm. And if you go to the Heritage Centre, there's a huge amount. Well, I said there's a huge amount of information. There is some information, but it was top secret because, of course, it was in the war. And but there was all sorts of things. There was sports teams, and there was just all sorts that went on. And over the years, I remember back in the 1970s. We did a lot of clearance of not so much the railway, but there was a lot of debris from the factories and a lot of concrete, and which we cleared off the fields. And I remember as a boy out there, well, not physically doing it myself, but being with my father and the many employed.
Yeah, some stories that. And obviously now we've got the Williamson's farm shop. Of course, I'm a big fan of the shop. Working together a little bit now, aren't we, with the...
really important, and it is, and I'm a big believer, and we've always grown potatoes. Potatoes on the farm has been something we've always grown, and the general market for potatoes can go up and down quite severely, and that guarantee of an income off an acre of potatoes. And so I remember back in 1976, it was a drought year, and we were selling potatoes, bagged potatoes, which we bagged ourselves off the side of the road. And people were just giving up for them because there was a potato shortage that year. And I remember there's an 8-year-old boy.
So this is before the shop existed. This was just the side of the road selling
before you were born.
Right. He's showing your age now, Craig.
But that was, and so it's always been my father as well. He has always, we've tried to sell the potatoes. I mean, obviously, you sell them to the merchants, but always there's been a market for the roadside bag of potatoes, which we've always done. And slowly but surely you build that up, and then as our family started to grow, because I took over from my father in the late 1990s, and then I moved, myself and my wife Sally moved into the Hart Lane Farm, and obviously had our Ben and Charlotte, and slowly but surely we built up the selling of the potatoes, and it was a small room where you would post the money through the letterbox and take your bag of potatoes. And a lot of people,
the honesty letterbox
worked really, really well. And the honest and the genuine people were so genuine, and people remember it now, going, "Oh, I remember posting the money," and it worked really well. But obviously, over time, the advent of the card, the debit card, and people wanting to pay on card, obviously we had to change things slightly. And it's something we had planned, and then of course COVID came, and that really gave us a big push because we set up outside the shop that it is now, and we were selling
sort of expanded from
it gave us an instant footfall of a shop during COVID, which for the horrible things that went on with COVID, it was a real nice thing that it was brilliant. People really supported us, and we were at Sheffield, the wholesale market, 3 times a week, but also with our potatoes and our eggs and everything else.
I think it was a real two-way thing as well, because I know in your hand you're like, everyone supported us and we're very grateful. I've spoke to a lot of people sort of about you in lots of different capacities, all good. And sort of a lot of people, I know that you were delivering to people that couldn't get out during COVID, working every hour through the day still, behind
behind the scenes. Yeah, it was. And, we were trying very hard to do all that and still run the farm and a family and everything else that went on with COVID. But, it was hard. It was difficult for everybody. And we're trying to do what was...
When you think back now and you're like, ooh, it's very strange.
We still have the markers on the ground where people had to stand 6 6 foot apart or 6 meters or 2 meters, and those marks were on. And I remember people being queued across where the car park is now. And, and folks were very patient, and we tried very hard. And yet it gave us an instant footfall, which people are stuck with. And so it's like, what can we do now? What could we sell them? And it's just moved on from that.
Yeah, what I do love what you've done with the shop is as you've grown the shop, you've grown from the side of the road potatoes to the letterbox, the honest letterbox, into the shop that it is today.
Yeah.
But what I do love about it is that you've kept its traditional values. It's a very rustic shop. Is it an old barn or something?
It is. I used, when I was in my teens, in my early teens, when I had one of my many cars, minis, pickups, little whatever, motorbikes. That was my workshop. That was my little workshop, and I'd have all my stuff in there. And next door there was some stables, and my sisters would have the ponies or the goats or whatever we had. And so to utilise those rooms, and also, like anything. I mean, as a businessman, you can't just spend a load of money. You can't, if you haven't got the money in the first place, and everything has to come out of the pot. There's no magic, and it had to come out of there, and so therefore we've done it slowly but surely. But there's no point putting plaster on the wall if you don't need to.
Absolutely,
There's no point. We got the flooring right. We knew, obviously, don't want people falling case of windows in, but when you buy it,
but a clean.
But it's finding even the fridges. You find them at the right price. I couldn't afford to buy a brand new. So you slowly bring things.
Do it a little bit at a time, yeah.
But sticking to the basics, and I think it's a real big part of it. Not selling anything too fancy. Stick to the basics. Stick to genuine food, which we both believe in. And
you've got a lot of knowledge about. I mean, I remember because we've started selling potatoes at our butcher shop, the meat rate, in the 5 kilo bags.
Yeah.
But I remember when we was going to, because we've always sold them in the clock house. We make our hash browns with your potatoes, we make our chips, we make our mashed potatoes and our roasties for our Sunday dinner, and of course the jacket potatoes we're selling Alfie's. But we wanted to sell the potatoes as potatoes, and get a bit of that into the town centre. And I remember I came to you for a lesson. I don't know if you remember this. And I was like, right, Craig, tell me about all these. There's Marfonas and there's camels and there's all these different types.
Yeah.
And you were telling me, these are a real good all-rounder, these are great for chips and mash. But the Marfona, they always sticks to me this day. That's a right good table potato. And I still use that line. I use that line today, like when people say, which one shall I get? I say, the Marfona, that's a table potato, is that? Now, I don't know what it means, but it sounds good.
It is a general potato, and I think in a way you can't have potato. I mean, the supermarkets they do their thing. I know a lot of farmers who grow potatoes for the supermarkets, and I know very well that the potatoes they're growing, they're all right, and they're grown for a shape. And they're going for a skin finish because, of course, they have to look good and they don't have to poke out the side of the bag. Whereas some of my potatoes might be a bit
all kinds of weird and wonderful shapes.
Absolutely. But they've got more taste. And I think, yes, they might be a little bit harder to grow, but I do believe, and also not just having good taste, which a lot of people go, potatoes taste. They do, and they taste different, each variety. But also, it's that being able to use them for different jobs, be it a chip, a mash, or whatever you're doing, a roast, and it's having a potato. I think all the 4 varieties we've got in the shop at the moment, they all are all-rounders. They're all great table potatoes.
I'm a big fan of the reds, though, at the moment.
But the reds are lovely, and the camels, and we've really sort of pushed those. It depends on what seed potatoes I can buy and how the market works. And I save a bit of my own seed back, but I have to go to Scotland. Now, we've had some really weird weather in the last 6 years, which some major winter flooding, which has affected a lot of potato farms, and therefore has made a problem with the seed market. And so, therefore, a lot of the seed hasn't been available. So, getting Marfona seed and getting, Picasso or Camel, it's just been more and more difficult, or Irish Piper or Desiro, whatever going to grow. And it's just trying to work out what can I get. I need to plan ahead, because if I'm going to push a variety like Camel Red, I've got to know I've got some in. I'm going to be able to plan it for this spring and next spring. Because what I maybe have to do then is actually buy some more packaging. Well, packaging I'm probably buying for the next 4 years. There's no point in me getting a load of packaging with Camel Reds on it if I'm not going to grow them in 2 years because I can't get the seed. But there are varieties we can do, and it's so we've got some really good response.
It's a great story. I mean, as you know, I'm a big believer in supporting local and supporting local businesses, but you can taste it. You touched on something there. You can taste it. I remember when we first moved into our house we're in now in West Stockwith, and Laura's mum had come for dinner. She'd come down from Scotland for dinner, and so I was cooking the Sunday lunch, the nice Sunday lunch, and I came to your farm and got some potatoes, the dirty ones, and I washed them all up, and and there was like, oh, this is absolutely lovely, and I said, yeah, but just try the potatoes, they are farm potatoes. But there's that little thing as well. You touched about the weather and the importance of like a bit of bad weather can just, it's such a big thing to someone like yourself and farmers in general. And I just like the fact that people supporting you and your farm, it's actually supporting a family, it's supporting staff, it's supporting local people. Now, I'm not saying don't go to the supermarket, but
I still go to the supermarket,
for certain things. But but I think that supporting local, there's a real sense of, it's a really nice thing to do, as well as the quality.
Yeah, so it is trying very hard in things that I buy for the shop and things that I grow for the shop, or other people like yourself who brings in products that you meet for the shop, because I think a lot of it is down to food miles, and I think that is a big part of it, and I really appreciate what work you've done with the different meats you have, and how.
Yeah, we won't go further than 50 miles.
Absolutely, and I very much try very hard with the cauliflowers, with the sprouts, with lots of the greens. I mean, certain things I'm going to struggle with. I mean, I don't know. I'm going to rush off and get some bananas.
You might just struggle.
But I do like a few bananas, as well as the oranges and even some sweet potatoes we grow. But on the whole, it's things I can get leeks. Rhubarb when it's in season, and that's another big thing we try very hard. I haven't got strawberries at the moment in the shop because I don't feel they're in season. I like to wait
until they're best.
I could be selling out of season, but I don't. I feel it's just it's a nice thing to look forward to. And then when we deal with a local company over the river in North Wheatley, and they supply my strawberries, and so I wait for them, and there's some. They give me some amazing,
and they are the best. I mean, as I said, taste one of these. Like you can really tell. I mean, I'm sort of into, I'm meat based, and I sort of, I could tell you anything there is to know about meat. Yeah. But when it comes to, I've learned quite a lot from you. I remember the time when I got a text message off you, or a WhatsApp, right? And you messaged me and you said, I don't know if you remember this, you said, I've got some really exciting news. This just shows a little bit of passion. I've got some really exciting news. Well, anyway, I was busy butchering or something, and an hour later I seen your message. And I went, I called you. I didn't message you back. I rang you straight away, right? No answer. I think you were in your tractor or something. So then another hour went, and I tried you again and you still didn't answer. And then I were onto something and you called me back. And then I was gutted out and I'm like, this sounds like really good. This is really exciting. Anyway, I think, we did a little bit of the old voicemail for a few hours. And eventually I got through to you and I was like, right, Craig, what is it? And you went, we've started doing some washed potatoes in bags.
That's such a little thing, but it was like, I do remember.
Yeah, that shows you the passion load that goes into it. No, but it does. It shows you sort of, that were like real exciting.
It was.
And it's great. It's great to see.
So, yes, and that's also using local business, local companies. So, for instance, they're already down at East Stockwith. And so I take my potatoes to them, and they put them. I'm not going to invest in a wash machine which washes the potatoes. They've got a super setup there,
and it's another job.
Actually, and it's worked really well working with them. They buy a few potatoes up as well, so it works.
Between them works together,
and so and Ben's gone this morning to fetch another sort of 6 ton we've just had done, but they're all our potatoes. They wash them and bag them. And I just think, in the past, I've still got some dirty potatoes.
Yeah, you sort of do it.
Yeah, and I see, whenever I get any potatoes out of the shop for myself, I always take the washed one.
They're like the truth. Whenever you are off washed, please, it's easier.
You must buy dirty.
Yes, we live in a time of convenience as well, and it's got to be convenient for everybody. But what I love about the shop, what I love about the farm, is that it really is a real family affair. I mean, I can often come up, you're bagging potatoes, and
your son Ben will pass on the tractor and he's doing something. Sally's, growing flowers, and she's doing the flowers, and she's been in the field picking me some green beans for our Sunday dinners at the Clock House, and and then Charlotte's in the kitchen baking the cakes and the pastries. So the whole family are involved, and that's great to see.
It really is, and it's super actually. And even Ben's partner Gina, she looks after all the ponies and the goats and the alpacas and the chickens, obviously, and everything, all the animals, and she's really involved in that side, keeping them right, making sure. Even with the ponies, making sure the feet, everything looks right. Nobody wants to, making sure the welfare of the animals is good. She's really good at that and really positive. And then Charlotte's partner, Ewan, he's got his own little business and he has his own tractors. And therefore, today he's working for us. He's doing some hedge trimming. So it's the family is...
The family and the extended family. So I do see looking after the animals all the time. Every time I go up, she's doing stuff, and it's fantastic. Because, got to remember as well, a little plug for the farm, that there's animals there and that can walk about and, it's free. Please do go in the shop and come and have a look, and you can buy some food and feed them and everything else.
I love the fact. I mean, I feel incredibly fortunate. I think that's, being born into a family that have got access to fields. And it seems such a simple thing because it's after I've been born into, I've always had a field to wander about it. But to say to folks, just come and go see the animals. Okay, you might buy a bit of food or buy some potatoes or whatever you're going to get, but just come and just stretch your legs.
Go for a morning, and it's great. It's great for the mind, and it's great for the soul. Really, I just love being up on the farm. I mean, I'm lucky enough to have had a little bit of a tour around the farm now. I've been on the tractor trailer rides in the summer, but of course, even up to where all the chickens are. Chickens laying eggs, and you've got all your fresh eggs. It really is. You've got your fresh eggs, you've got your potatoes that you grow yourself, a lot of your vegetables and everything, all the homemade cakes, and then your local, your Stubbs coffee.
It's a lot of hours, and you can't back off. Now we opened, to open a shop that is open 7 days a week.
Yes.
I know we shut at 2:00, and some people get, well, again, you're working a half day, but it's like,
that's it.
We stop at 2:00 so I can do the farm work.
That's what people see it. And then Sundays 10 till 2. They say, you're only doing 4 hours today. Never mind the 5 o'clock start.
I'm going to go and try and try it. But I do love being at the farm, and I can't help but want to be around the shop when it's open and just saying hi to the customers. I know you do it, being at the front there, just maybe not being on the till, because Charlotte doesn't let me on the till that much, because not I make a mess of it, but I chat too much. And therefore, they get a bit of queue. And
you want to let loose on occasion. You sort of let loose and do your bit.
And to have a one-to-one chat with folks. And we've got a lot of regulars now who come in, and it's lovely, as you will in town.
It's nice when they just give you that support. And the thing is, it's appreciated being a small, wages to pay and bills to pay. And as you say, you're on a rented back, for the amount of years you've been there. What a fantastic story, though, it is, up to now. So you may recognise me. I'm quite known these days for doing my videos in the shop. When we started our butcher's shop, we started in a much smaller shop through the hatch. So I started doing the videos because people couldn't come and see what we had on display. So I had to do the videos to show them. And obviously it's continued on. But going back, I mean, the king of the Saturday morning live videos, that's something I always look forward to. It's my Saturday morning.
Yeah, I know. And I have got out of doing it really regularly. And I've sort of, I loved it. And I often say to people that actually I did it for myself. And actually to do it live as well, to do a video, and this is lovely and it can be edited, but actually to do it live by, I feel like I'm talking to people, but actually I'm just entertaining myself, really, as best as anything.
You're just killing 20 minutes yourself. I mean, I've seen you in chicken suits and Santa suits and all kinds of suits doing your videos, and it's... You can be watching it and I can sort of hear it, or sometimes, right, I've got it on, right, through the speaker if I'm driving in the car or something, and so I'm not watching it, I'm listening to it, and I'm hearing something like, cabbage, really fun to...
But you can't think about what you're going to say. I never plan day to day what I'm going to say, do, or anything. And actually, with a lot of, I'm doing more. I do some evening entertainment, and no, I did some talks at like with women, the WI, and various things now, and I really enjoy it. And next, I had to do with the Morton ladies, I think called in the village hall in Morton, and there was probably 15 of them there. And I said it felt like I was being counseled. I needed counsel. It was really nice. It was just something about it, like just to really enjoy having a chat and having an audience.
Having an audience.
As you listen to what I say. And then I suppose at home.
Yeah, that's it. You get an opportunity to, but no, it's really great to see and gives people a bit of an insight into what you do and what you're up to. I know it's not always videos in the shops. You can be out when you're doing the pumpkins and showing them how you plant.
Absolutely, and taking it through the season of the pumpkins or the season of the potatoes. And people say, folks say, you must ought to do more educational videos. I really enjoy that. And it's me getting round to it. Yeah.
It's time as well. Like you say,
I get sat on my tractor, and it's like I like my tractor, and it's the day's gone, and I haven't.
Yeah, the idea's always there, but it's real work. I think like Claxton's farm thing. People are starting to understand a little bit what goes on behind the scenes. The problem you can have with the weather that we touched on earlier, and everything else. It's really great to see, and it's a pleasure actually to sit opposite you in episode number 1 today.
Yeah, hopefully it's going all right so far.
So
not boring everybody too much. I hope. I hope they haven't all switched off yet.
Both of them. Hi, Holmes. Nice to see you both. Something that we went to together. I don't know if it were the start of last year or the end of the year before. I can't remember. Was it the Citizen of the Year Awards? We went up at...
we did, up to...
Hemsworth Cliff, Hemsworth Cliff.
Yes.
Lovely place. Yes. And... they invited all the, there was chains and there was all the, suits and ties and all the people, all the people of the town, worth mentioning. Yeah. Now, Army and you slipped in, the riffraff faded in, but we ended up on the same table, and I think I was invited because I think in support of you, started working together. We sell our meat at your farm shop and so on, and you went up there expecting that you was presenting an award.
Which I did. The young chap was a very good award to present.
Yeah, and then as the evening went on, the sort of our next award is was it the Citizenship of the Year or something like that? Citizen of the Year Award, and let's tell you all about this. Well, obviously I knew that it were you that, but obviously nobody else did, and neither did you. And the look, and so it was sort of like
it was funny. Started talking about me.
It really opened my eyes, Craig, though, about some, or not just some, but the amount of charity work that you've done as well. In terms of, you're a bit of a runner, aren't you?
Yeah. I could pull the pants off on my running stories, without a doubt. And it's we've raised a lot of money over the years behind the scenes, and when I've run the London Marathon, which is always a good thing. I'm a very enthusiastic runner. I only really took it up in my 40s. It wasn't something I did when I was younger. I maybe do another 10K, but not really. I didn't really enjoy it very much. I mean, when you've got a young family as well, and I used to enjoy playing a lot of golf. So it was, something I ever came into it. And then I suddenly got... I'll tell you what actually happened. And this would be... 16, 17 years ago. And I would always drive past Queenie's, as it is now, the high school. And there was a bench at the high school. And on a Thursday night, there'd always be a group of runners collecting on a Thursday evening, and they'd go off for a run. I'd see these runners thinking, that looks I must do, we're like January, New Year, New Me.
Yes, I must get involved.
I must get involved. I must do that. Something I really want to do. And it's that big first step of anybody in any sort of sport, be it the gym, wherever you want to go to
doing something for the first time,
your health, and to do something for the first time. Anyway, I found out where they met on a Tuesday night, and I turned up with a pair of tennis shoes I think I'd had from school, and a pair of jogging trousers, and like a jumper thing. I remember wearing this, and I remember meeting Lorna and one of the girls that was organising that evening, and Lorna Allison, and she said, right, we're going to be running up and down this hill. It was behind Central Station. And there's a track which goes up and down a hill, and I remember going up and down this hill, and there was Johnny Drake, and there was Carl Curry, and various other guys who obviously know quite well. And it was like, and I was like, oh, I'm going to jump before. And suddenly, of course, I got the bug. And I don't think I missed a week for years running with the Gainsborough Morton Striders, which, I'm a massive fan of. And I'm actually now chairman. Of the
Got up in the world.
It was me, look at it. And so that gave me the fitness. And of course, as you do a 5K, you do a 10K, you might think, I'm going to do a half marathon.
And then you start pushing yourself.
You do. And a friend of mine, Mr. Ramsey, and he took me to Paris, and we did the Paris Marathon together. And that was at 2014, 2015, which was like a massive experience. And from then, obviously London, you try and get in London. Now, London is a difficult marathon to get into. It's the pinnacle. I still believe I've done it 3 times now. It's the marathon to go and do. I thought, well, you can do the ballot place, but actually, I thought, no, I'm going to raise some money. We'll do a charity. I'll run a charity thing. So the first year I did it, we started raising a bit of money for the Lincolnshire Air Ambulance. Which they gave me the place, and you have to raise 3,000 or 4,000, £2,000 or £3,000. And the first year I just ran with my vest, and that was fine. I think that first year we raised sort of £4,000 or £5,000. We had a couple of do's at the farm, where a couple of fundraising events. Of course, we've got a lot of friends who helped out, and we did sort of cakes and all sorts of things.
Yeah, everybody mucking in.
Yeah, everyone mucked in. It was lovely days, and raised the money, and I went and ran, and fantastic. I really enjoyed it. And as I was running around, and of course you'll see it on the telly, you see the people running in fancy dress, and as being a complete idiot,
I fancy a bit of that.
I fancy a bit of that. Nothing about the attention, of course, but it was. And
it's hard enough. 26 miles.
I'm running alongside, and I've been sort of, when I remember doing, and then when I was running and it's like you run alongside these people, and it's like, and the rhinos or whoever it's going to be, and it's like, yeah, that would be quite an amazing thing to do, and to do something like that is quite something. And I was invited to run the Edinburgh Marathon with some friends of mine, and they designed this boat, this 4-man Viking boat.
Right, okay.
And they wanted someone to film it. So can you run alongside us? And you have to film every mile. You have to film every mile sign. You have to fill every mile. And it's like, and they were going to run into boats.
So you've actually got to run the 26 miles, but you're just a cameraman.
I had to overtake them every single mile, get to the mile markers, because they were going for the world record. They were going for the 4-man in a Viking boat, and 4 middle-aged guys, just and wonderful. And we did
what experience!
It was fantastic, and it was just, and we all dressed as Vikings, and it was the most amazing. We all went and stayed up there for the weekend with our families and the support, and I filmed a huge amount of it, and I still watch some of those videos because it's still giving me such a buzz. And obviously from that, it's like, what could I do? And I'm going, going to get another place for London. So obviously looking at their boat that they built, now, could you build me a tractor? And they're like, well, yeah, actually, no. So I got to know them reasonably well, and in town and whatever. And yeah. So I said, well, I've got a small, massive Ferguson tractor, which we can base the shape on. And we set to it with some sort of pipes and cloth and
I've seen this. This has been hung in the farm shop. Hung in the farm shop for quite a lot of years.
So they built it for me, and Martin Ward, he painted it, and we got sponsorship from Massey Ferguson, from various local businesses, and with that we wrote on, and then obviously I did manage to. And I was actually in London. You go. Because you're trying to get a Guinness record, which was nowhere in the world, because somebody else would have taken a tractor, which is probably made out of polystyrene and weighs nothing, and so therefore can run quite fast. It was never going to be an issue, because I know this thing weighed 25 kilos.
Yours was made out of drain pipes and things. Yeah, for people that don't know it, well, this was like a small, full-size tractor that you decided to wear. Normal people, I'm not saying normal people would run the 26, and it's like, in your best.
And
you ran it in a tractor.
Yeah, I carried this. It was 25 kilos. It's 8 foot long. Ridiculous. And I remember Martin and Nigel, who were helping me build it. They were like, it's too big. It's too ridiculous. And I said, no, that's what I want to hear.
Bigger.
Because people will donate. People, when you're donating to someone for a charity to raise money, they want to see people suffer. I suffered. And we raised over £16,000, and it was just
Fantastic.
The emotions of that. I'm getting emotional now thinking about it still. And this is nearly 10 years ago.
I've got goosebumps. Listening to you.
It was such a brilliant thing to do, and to have the fitness as I did 10 years ago. It was wonderful, and I was weight training and all sorts of that. It took me nearly 7 hours to get the darn thing round, but I do remember one thing. I mean, I ran with a very good friend of mine, Hannah Bennett. She had a marathon place through her time, but she said, "No, I'm going to run with you. I'm going to feed you. I'm going to give you water." And she ran along my side all the way around, which was fantastic. And I remember you come with the London Marathon, you finish on the embankment, and then come round Houses of Parliament and up Birdcage Walk. And obviously it's the last mile, and of course I was absolutely buzzing. And I was overtaking people. And people who were obviously running the marathon or walk running it or whatever, looking to their side, and there's me with it.
It's like got an engine in it.
It's just their faces were just like that forlorn look. It's like, oh my God. And it was a wonderful thing.
Great memories as well.
Just in floods at the end. And we came down to, and I will go on about it, but we came down the mile, so you finish and then you have to walk down the mile and into the horse guards where everyone collects and where you meet the family and your friends and whatever. And as I walked, there's lots of people, when you do 7 hours, there ain't many people late. But all the people that were doing the baggage, they all stopped, and I had about half a mile of people just clapping as I walked past with this thing. And then I got down to horse guards, and you have to be funneled into this bit, and then you go into it. It was so busy, everybody was there with all their families. And it was like this. It was like it parted in front of me, and everyone stopped and applauded.
Yeah,
and I just lasted out. And now I'm really I'm getting choked up because it's like it was such. I was shot. I was absolutely shattered, and emotionally, physically. But oh my goodness! And they all just stopped, and and it's like
you got through it, and then the icing on to get the amount of money that you're worth for all the charities. And I know you do a lot of charity work. And I know you're shouting about it, but you do a lot of charity work
and get that opportunity,
and which is fantastic.
Planning other things, but it all comes down also you getting fit, which I'm a massive believer in, and I'm still trying to run. And
you often run the park. We
can move on to the park run. So the park run. At the farm, which wonderful thing to have.
Every Saturday morning.
Yeah, it's something which obviously I'd done park runs in the past, and I've been involved in the old Gainsborough park run, which was near the leisure centre, which was a really hilly one. We didn't used to get many people because it was so hilly.
Yeah.
But then COVID came, and of course it stopped. And then also my landlord, bless him, they built on the field next door, and so therefore we couldn't then carry it on. And now I'd already had it in my mind about making my own track. It was almost for myself, or to actually have an event at the farm, some sort of farm run, or I don't know, park run was already running. And then I got approached by one or two local folks saying, you could actually, do the park run here. And I was very cautious because I know that people have been looking in Gainsborough, because if it's the Gainsborough park run, it's got to be in Gainsborough, be it at the leisure centre, be it on the Trent side, be it somewhere in town. And there was just nowhere big enough, nowhere enough to take the traffic, the car parking, the meeting point, the levellings, all the places where you might think it would work, and it just didn't. And we looked very hard just across the road here at the just on the riverside, and it was never quite big enough. And so slowly but surely, then we sort of said, well, actually, I had to get my family's approval, and we had to discuss it as a family because
because the whole family are involved. I mean, again, you'll go up to Head Farm on a Saturday morning, and the whole family are there in the fluorescent jackets. There's some directing traffic. There's some
Sally directs traffic over
the trailer that uses a bit of a stage before it all goes on. But looking at it, I mean, the venue, the farm, I mean, what a fantastic place for a park run. I mean, people are running past your pumpkin season, and they're running past all.
It's only to get them to go into the shop. That's positive. It's like going to Disneyland, but you have to finish off by going to the shop.
Yeah, that's there's got to be a bit of light.
And I knew there was also going to be, we would have an uplift of folks coming in on Saturday morning, which is a good thing for my business.
It's great. It's great support because what you give for that as well. You're giving your time, you're giving all the family, like I mentioned, are there involved. And then it's great to see everyone coming round afterwards for a tea and a coffee. Charlotte has all the cakes there as well, and the sausage rolls, meat supplied by the meter. And so obviously, it's a fantastic event. It's great to see, and I do see you running there occasionally.
Yeah, no, and I've actually not restarted. I did London Marathon last spring. I've actually got a ballot place this year and just run it with a bit of training and whatever, and then sort of stopped. So
you still doing marathon?
So I did stop for 4 or 5 months and did absolutely nothing, and then it's like must. I don't know, so I'm back running again now, and I've got plans. And you think, maybe.
Start to get the itch again.
But I don't think it'll be the road marathons because they really do hammer your knees and your back. But to do the park run would be nothing without the volunteers. And that's, the folks that approached me in the first place, and that volunteer group that come every week. And I'm not kidding.
Rain, sleet, or
20 or 30 folks who they come regular, and it's absolutely fantastic to support it, which I know some parkruns around the country do struggle for volunteers. Well, it's wonderful, and they're so enthusiastic, and I really take my hat off to them coming out, like you say, in any weathers. And we've only ever stopped once when the car park was all flooded. Yeah, but the course has always been good.
Yeah, it's great to see. I do keep threatening. I must come and do it. It'd probably be a walk, but I want to. I'm just thinking of the cake stall on the end of it, So back in British farming, we mentioned this earlier, but how important is that? How important?
It's really. I think it's the farming and it's the farmers. I think, like myself, there's generational families that have been on their farms, have taken over and over and over. That knowledge of land, I know every one of my fields. I know exactly how it is. I know how to look after it. I know how to drain it. I know how to cut, they're all so different. And, then it's the same. Let's say you've got a farmer who's got a dairy herd, and to look, and he knows every single cow because he sees them twice a day. And it's an amazing. My wife Sally, she used to work on a dairy farm, and to go and help her, and they would know 200 cows. They would know every single one and all the characters, and that knowledge, which, if you get into more of a factory farm situation, because if the small farmers go, you're just going to get these massive farms where that knowledge and that care and attention to the details of the small things will go. And that is only can be handed on generation by generation. Now, yes, there's some really good farm workers and people who come and work on farms who have absolutely no history of farming. And that's wonderful. And that real drive to want to work with animals or a tractor or whatever it's going to be. But I think it's the family farms which, it's so important. And, to encourage what they grow. We don't always get it right. And like you say, we have to work with the weather. I always say that farmers are one of the biggest gamblers because let's say you could put a crop in the ground where you don't know what the weather's going to do. And you can have floods, you can have all sorts go on, or, hail can absolutely smash a crop to pieces.
What a thing to think that can literally destroy your business. Going into bad weather, something going against what you're aiming for.
Absolutely awful. I think from which year was it? It was 6 years ago when the rain started in mid-October, and we just started lifting potatoes, and we couldn't even get a tractor onto the field by the last week of October, and we were out there picking by hand. And that was I remember now, that was the year before COVID started. So that was in the autumn. And actually what happened? So we had potatoes in the field that was flooded, and we had to try and pick some by hand. We just managed to keep the shop going just enough by what we could get, but it was really difficult. And then in the spring, as it dried up, we were suddenly able to get the tractor back on the field. And actually we went and harvested quite a lot of these potatoes. And when COVID did hit and we were harvesting the potatoes from the field in April, which is ridiculous for a start, but we were selling them straight off the farm through the shop, which, it was a lifesaver to us. We'd had the winter of hell, being on our hands and knees, grovelling around, just trying to pick potatoes. This is the way to be.
This is the thing, and it's like, how come the shop shuts at 2 a.m? You're going to bed? No, we're literally on our hands and knees picking potatoes.
With your telephones nowadays, you can sort of get memories come, and these memories come up, and you're like, oh, I don't want to remember that because that was awful.
Move swiftly on.
But it did become, and there is your family again, because it was family that was working, and we're all getting stuck in, and Brian, who works for us, and Gordon, and the various people who are involved in the farm, and even Gina's mum came with us quite a bit out into the field. I remember one day there was a photograph of me, my wife Sally, and Gina's mum sat in the tractor having a bit of lunch, and it was hammering it down for me to sitting there going, oh dear.
Please stop.
Yeah, please stop. The ones we'd already put in the boxes just getting wet through, and potatoes don't like getting wet. I'm not poor me, but it is, but you've got to keep going.
The highs and lows.
You can't just walk away. And as a family and as a unit and as a married couple, to actually work together, for myself and Sally, Alan Hirsch, she's still with through. I have no idea.
She's got the patience of a saint. She has. She's got the patience of a saint. But it's great to see. I mean, some of the trials and tribulations and everything that goes through it, and you're still there, and you're still plodding on, and you're still doing what you're doing. Not just for yourselves, not just for the business, but for the community. Yeah. There are a lot of communities.
So planning ahead, and then obviously, like you say, working with local and trying to find other local people who can, supply stuff for the shop, and it's something I'd like to start to build up, and it's having the time to go and see them, have a chat. I went to see. I was chatting to a fella down Lord Street. He's got a sweet shop down there, and I went in just before Christmas, and it was like, I'd like some more sweets for the shop, and so I went and had a word with him, and I said, I'll come and have a word after Christmas, and I'm sure we'll try and work together.
Yeah, businesses working together. Small businesses working
together. And that sort of thing, which I think is really important, and whether it's that, or it's a florist, or it's something else, but something that can just fit in with what we do. But it has to be this. It has to be, you don't just have to get on with me. You've got to get on with Sally and Ben and Charlotte as well. And so the whole, you see, you passed the test.
Of course, you say, I aim to please. Craig, so every person that sits here at the table will be asked this question. And the question is, if you could sit at this table and have a conversation with anybody, now this could be past or present, with anybody, who would it be? You see, I've put you on the spot now.
Oh, I've got time to think about this. Goodness sake. Who on earth? Because you can start to think through history. Well, it'd have to be relatively recent history. Maybe from somebody I could have interviewed. We're not going to go down the politics line. Sports stars. Yeah, there'd be one or two quite influential sports. I tell you who it would be. I used to, when we were kids, there was a brilliant, and there was actually, there'd be two people. There was one program on TV which I loved, apart from Top of the Pops, which I actually never saw because I was always swimming. Because I was at the games of swimming club, so it was just like I just was twin Thursday night, Sunday night. So I never saw Top of the Pops. Never got to record anyway. But there used to be a TV program called Superstars. And it was a fitness thing where they were all competing against each other. So it was sort of people from, from the sports world, or even from the TV world, would go on Superstars and would compete against each other doing squat thrusts or pull-ups or running or just like circuit training type stuff. I loved this program. And there was two people on it because I also did judo at the time. There was a guy called Brian Jacks who was fantastic at it. And there was also Daley Thompson, and I think it would be Daley Thompson. I would love to interview him because I think he's a hell of a character. And I see him, he doesn't do a lot of interviews, but I don't think he does a lot of media. But God, he's an interesting person. I'd love to talk to him.
Brilliant stuff.
There you go.
Well, Craig, it has been an absolute pleasure having you join us for episode 1, listening to some of your story and some of the work that goes into it. And I hope everybody comes up and supports your farm shop and continues to support you. And from all of us, a big thank you to you for the work that you do. So keep it up. It's been great to speak to you. And thanks for coming.
Thanks very much. Good to speak to you.
Thanks for listening to At the Table with Baz. If you enjoyed the episode, a like, share or review goes a long way, and I would be extremely grateful. You can stay connected with us on social media across all of your favourite platforms, and if you know someone with a story worth sharing, they can get in touch with me directly via the website at thetablewithbaz.co.uk. I'll see you next time.